Y'all give yourselves a hand for those who are in the building. I'm your host, Queen the Poetess, as well as co-owner of the Majesty Lounge. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. We are super excited to host our first annual State of Black America to discuss issues and resolutions that we can do for our community, for our nation, for our world. And I am literally stoked about this panel that we have tonight because they are leaders in the community, they are entrepreneurs, and they are also versed on all the Black issues that plague our community today. So I'm going to introduce the panelists. I got one more that's coming, but I'm going to start. To my far right, we have Pastor David Miller of Chosen Ministries. He's not only a pastor, but he's an advocate for the community. So he does a lot of work with helping the less fortunate and also mobilizing the kingdom of God. Sitting next to him to his left is my baby brother, Pastor David Johnson. He's a pastor of the First Baptist Church. My baby brother Daniel Johnson, who's the pastor of the First Baptist Church, Cropwell. I do apologize. I still do. We can't get divorced when you play. He's also an activist in the Black community with our young people and with everything else that's going on in the world. Come on, sit down. All right, and also my sister, Quintara Marie Hammonds of Q Marie Artistry, who is an upcoming makeup artist and also entrepreneur. I'm wearing some of her clothes from her boutique. That's why I chose this one. She dressed me tonight, so y'all get with her. Also, Monique Rice, who's entrepreneur and owner of the catering business Palette Teasers, and she is a cook like nobody's business. Yeah. Literally, I'm asking her for some turkey burgers as we speak. All right. So these are the panelists for tonight. Y'all give them a hand. All right. So the first question that we have will be answered by all of our panelists. Keep in mind, panelists, that you have 2 minutes tops to answer these questions, and you can ask. I thought my baby was making. Oh boy, he's right. If you need me to repeat the question, I will do so. All right, starting with ladies first, and we'll go around. What do you think we are? Where do you think that we are as a people in Black America?
Where we are as a people in Black America, we have definitely overcame a lot of struggle. I think we have made a footprint and put an indent in some of these things that stopped us from before. And what I love about is our parents worked hard, right? And so they worked hard, and the generation that we live in is that we gotta see about them and also see about our parents. Well, our parents was like, hey, I know where I came from and I know where I'm not going, and I'm gonna make sure that my kids is not gonna be there. So where we are right now in Black America, I think we are progressing, but we still have to make sure that we are holding each other accountable, giving people a chance, because we all make mistakes, but just don't make it for one time. You learn from your mistakes. So I would have to say that we are progressing, and I'm proud of my people, and that's why I'm here today. Support is what support is, right? So you can say, hey, what you gonna do, but action speaks louder than words. And so that's why I'm up here right now.
All right. My mouth is kind of loud enough I have to hold it up too high. But what do I think we are as people in Black America? Where I think we are in a position where we're happy that we have overcome some of our struggles, but I feel we are still in a position where we can be doing better. We are in a position where we're satisfied, so it makes us almost complacent. And with me saying complacent is because we're teaching, we're preaching things, we're displaying things, but we're not really passing it on to generations behind us. Some of our traditions, some of our stories are being lost because of us not carrying on some of our traditions, some of our history, because we think that we've arrived. Definitely we have made strides as Black people in America, from going from 3/5 of a person to an actual person to a president to now having a vice president. So we have definitely done a lot of things, but that's just not it. It's more to be done. So I do believe that we have done a wonderful work, but we have to also continue to be steadfast in making we've already made our imprint, but making sure that our history, our struggle, our story is not forgotten.
Good evening. Let's see. Where do I think we are as a people? I think we're in a very interesting place as a people. Part of that is, I believe we're in a place we've always been in, and that is making history. As a people, we've always made history. And we're continuing to do that, as Ms. Hammonds just mentioned. We talk about Barack Obama, but here most recently we have Kamala Harris, we have Raphael Warnock, who's the first Black senator in Georgia. And so as a people, we're where we've always been, and that's making history despite the odds that are stacked against us. And I think the last 4 years with Brother 45 being in office, it really exposed a lot, covered a lot. But one thing, if anything, I guess we could be in some way thankful for is the fact that it kind of put our feet to the fire. It kind of put our feet to the fire. And now I think we're moving forward with a thrust that we haven't had in a long time. And I think part of that is because our struggle has started to, I guess, unite people. People are starting to pay attention when we see what took place, more specifically after the death of George Floyd. I think that's when everybody started coming out and responded to these kinds of things. But I think, like I said, I think we're in an interesting place. I think we're in a very important and pivotal place in our history as we continue to make history and we continue to show people how we're able to advance despite all the adversity and the odds that are stacked against us. We're still able to achieve, but then we still have a long ways to go, which is why I thank God for the thrust that we now are approaching this time with. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where we're headed, where we're going, and there's something else I want to say. But yeah, we're making history, and that's what we've always done. And we ain't perfect, we ain't got it all together, but we're definitely on our way. That's enough. Bless you, Reverend. Let us pray. No, but agreeing with everyone, we are making leaps and bounds by awesome means. We are history makers, but at the same time, I am seeing traditional breakers. We have, in some ways, lost the foundation of who we are. If you look around, we color the world. In every way. Our nationality, I don't like the word race personally, but our origin of our background takes over in every way, from music to athletics, on the field, on the radio,
on the basketball court, in the White House, in Congress. We lead by leaps and bounds, yet in the neighborhoods, we lead by leaps and bounds, yet in the graveyard, we lead by leaps and bounds, yet in the prisons, we lead by leaps and bounds. And so we are moving and progressing, but not all of us are. And so there has to be some accountability that we have to each other as we are praising our brothers and sisters. As I'm so excited to see what God is doing in my life. My life is nothing if I'm not going back and picking up or engaging my brothers who are absolutely lost. If I'm not trying to teach a little boy how to tie a tie, yes, I want you to make it to Congress, but I just want you to make it out the hood.
Yeah,
and if you can't make it out the hood, can I at least teach you how to survive in the hood without carrying something from your stepdaddy in your bag that really ain't your stepdaddy at all? Can I teach you how to be somebody? Can we get parents that will come up to the school for more than to fight the child that's trying to fight your child, and because your daughter can't spell A, your daughter and your son can't spell I. And so, yes, we are moving forward. Yes, we are taking over, but yes, we are far behind and we have a ways to go. Yes, Dr. Martin Luther, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, but the dream is still deferred by some. And so I am excited that we are on our way. But as we are leaving, and I'm not telling everyone to do it because it may not be your calling. It may not be for you to go back and get everybody. But if you can, find it within yourself. As the old song says, and we all in the church, if I can help somebody, but for real though, if I can help somebody. Because you don't have any room with me to talk about what that young man is doing or how low his pants are down to the ground if you never told him or even went to buy him a belt.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right. All right. Can you hear me? Uh-huh. All right, this question is aimed to Sister Hammond. Did integration help or hurt the Black community? And if you would repeat the question for those who didn't hear me.
All right. The question was, did integration help or hurt the Black community? I may be the only one that feels this way. I may have some people that join me in my thought process, but I believe integration completely hurt the Black community. And the reason that integration hurt the Black community is because the Black community lost the sense of Black community. There was a time where when you could not go to a store because it was white owned, your own community had a store and you were welcome into that store. So you had Black business. You had, if you couldn't go to your area, we're in Bessemer, if you couldn't go downtown Bessemer and go to a movie theater, you had another place that you can go that was ours, that was our business. If you couldn't get into this particular school or that particular school, it was okay because you had your own. And it wasn't where, and please understand when I say this, everyone in the community supported everybody in the community. The person next door to you was your sister, was your auntie, everybody was Mrs., everybody was Mr. Everyone had it. There was a sense of pride also in the community that our community now we're lacking. It used to be where you could go down in certain communities and you can see somebody else's, hey, you go cut Miss Janie grass because Miss Janie can't get out there and cut her grass. But now you see in our communities, you can see grass all the way up to the windows. You see in our communities run down buildings. But before, you didn't see that because it was a sense of community. Now, I will tell you, in lieu of that, because of integration, we have made some progress, but I believe some of our people in the process of integration replace the thought of, I want to have what you have, to I want to be you. I want to have what you have, so instead of me being on an equal playing field, I want to be you, so I miss my identity.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow.
See what I'm saying? So with me trying to go with this struggle, I'm losing myself because I'm fighting to be in your place.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Do anybody else get to chime in? Okay.
You can. You can.
I just want to make this, one statement. I agree with everything Tara just said. You want to be called Miss Hammonds right now, Tara? Okay, professional tonight. But when she was talking, and I'd already, because I looked at the question, and I would say integration. I agree with her. I would say integration did hurt our people because it moved us from that place where we were supporting one another, where we were creating. And I think the real issue is, while we change physical locations, mentally we were still the same. So we have not been, we want to use a churchy word, delivered from that conditioning, that had our people oppressed and, docile and all of that. We were conditioned to believe that what master has, what the white man has, is greater than what we could ever have.
Wow.
And so when you don't take the time, okay, we're fighting for equality. We want to be in these spaces, but we should be also in a better physical space. I believe it's Naeem Akbar writes a book entitled "Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery," something like that. And so it's bigger than what water fountain you can drink out of, which restroom you can go to. It's a mind thing, and we struggle with that even today because we abandon our communities, and we want to go here and there where they have better instead of investing in our own.
That's right.
Instead of believing that what we create can be just as good, if not better. Okay.
I think I'm going to agree and disagree with you, Ms. Hammonds. I definitely like the last thing you said. If I had to coin it, I would say that as a word, we are born individuals, but die carbon copies. We are born individuals, but we die carbon copies. And it's a reality. But to get to the root of the question, I don't think that it was the integration that hurt us more than the segregation within our own community. Even before we were introduced to the white man, we were selling each other out on. I mean, if you keep it real, if you do your history, there were black slave owners. There were black slave owners. And there were those who were paid, who never left the shores of Africa to trap us. And so the mentality that everything, now, did we indeed feel a life-changing, altering hand by coming over here, by being forced and brought here? Because we didn't come, we were brought. Did that hurt us? Yes. And for some of us, for most of us, we had to lean and on each other. We had to learn how to survive one to another because we are all we had. But there was always one, and the psychological game that they saw, they capitalized on. It wasn't necessarily something new that they taught us. They saw that seed, they watered it. They saw the seed and they watered it. You see that right there? They don't like each other. Let's go ahead. You see that light one right there? Bring them in the house. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't even know.
Right.
But, and so, yes, I think, yes, it may have hurt and helped us. But my thing is, we have to look at ourselves. My belief may be different. I'm a strong African-American Black male. I am the middle of 5 boys, and I come from a strong foundation of men. I get, like, literally, you know my folks. We have a strong foundation in my family. But at the same time, some of my biggest battles have not been people who didn't look like me. Some of my biggest battles have been people who look just like me. I can name many jobs in this city. I served as law enforcement in this city. Professional, I was a firefighter. And not too far from here, I was teaching school. And it made me so excited going into the workforce. And there was a Black chief, and there was a Black lieutenant, and there was a Black this and a Black that. And I got so excited, and I allowed myself to sit there at your foot. Just how I was so excited when I met your dad back in the day. It's a young preacher, anything that I'm doing, man, oh, wow, I'm good. And so I'm blessed in that area, but in so many areas, I was misled, left for dead, because some of our people, when having the chance to pick us up, because they're gonna take care of theirs.
No doubt.
But just what? We gonna take care of theirs too.
Yep.
Can we keep it real? We gonna take care of theirs too.
Amen, Pastor. Take it all
All right, next question.
We'll go to Ms. Mo. Do we go overboard in reaching out to other cultures? Can we gain our success by just dealing within our own community? That's question number 2.
Do we go overboard
We're reaching out to other cultures.
to reaching out to other coaches? Well, you know my philosophy about when it comes to taking care of people. It doesn't matter if you're Black, white, yellow, orange, or gold. You're gonna get the same service. I don't care if your paycheck is $20 a week or $2,000 a week. So I can speak for myself, and I can speak for how I tell people, be thankful for what you have instead of what you're trying to get, right? Because there's others that don't have that. You can tell by my speech, I'm not from here. I'm born and raised in New York City, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic right now. I lost so many loved ones, and I'm steady. It's at a rapid pace. So I'm thankful to be able to just sit here, breathe, drink water, talk with you guys, be safe. And so when I say, I wouldn't say we go overboard, but then you have, what we're gonna say, you have those who, I want you to help me, right? What's that where they talk about you treat people when nobody's looking the same way you would treat them as if somebody was looking?
Integrity.
It's integrity, right? And so you have people that might not know who you are. It shouldn't matter, but they'll change their game plan if they knew you had something that they can gain from it, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna say it's borderline. You got some people on the side of the fence that got that golden rule. You treat others how you want to be treated. Then you got the others that I'm gonna treat you how I want to treat you unless somebody else is looking. So we just
Talk
Yeah.
All right, the next one.
Woo.
The next one is to pass the game.
Alright.
Do we play the race card too much? Do we play the victim?
Come on, Bishop.
Do we play the victim? I mean, that's an easy role to play when you are the victim.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's good.
You actually are the victim, no matter how you want to, qualify that. Black people are always made to feel some type of way when we do play that card, but it's a real card.
Right, it is. Yeah.
It's a very real card. And on one hand, I don't believe people really understand how much of an impact oppression, even slavery, still has on our people today. We just talked about that whole mindset of being removed from that mindset of oppression and being conditioned to think that this person is better than I am and I am inferior to this individual. So it's a very real thing. And I think we need to talk a little more about the effects of slavery, even some 400 plus years later. It's a very real thing, right? But then on another hand, we cannot use that to let it stop us.
There you go.
Yeah, we cannot use it as an excuse. I'm a preacher, so I like the Bible, right? In John chapter 5, there's this man who's been
Come on, take us there.
by this pool, and he's had this infirmity for like 38 years, right?
Take us there, take us there.
And at the same time, so I got 2 minutes, right? At the same time, he's laying by this pool. He's in a community of other sick people, and there's a Jewish feast going on. But Jesus goes where? He goes to where that pain is. He goes to where that hurt is. And he asked this man who's been down 38 years, he says, do you want to be made well?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Right?
Come on.
And I brought up the feast because that's important. Because when Jesus asked him the question, he says, I don't have anybody. But wait a minute, it's a Jewish feast going on.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, this is an indictment on his community.
Yeah.
But Jesus says in this moment, he says, listen, there are people that are okay with leaving you by the pool,
Yeah.
but it's up to you whether you stay by the pool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My goodness.
That's my baby brother. That's my baby brother.
All right, so this question is directed to Tara. All right, do you feel that colorism is still a thing in our community or an indication of our success in society?
Come on, Hammond.
Yeah, my mom in. Love you, boo. Colorism. For those who are not familiar with colorism, let's first set the standard of what the definition is. That is prejudice or discrimination within your own race. So to ask the question if colorism is still a thing in our community or have we moved past it, it is absolutely a thing in our community. And the reason being that it is still a thing in our community is not just in our community, it's not just in our circles, but it's in our workplace, it's in our church, it's in our community, it's even in some of the places that I cannot discuss because of where I work. But colorism is something like this. It goes back to, and please excuse the way that I say this, but this is how it is. It goes to either the house nigga or the field nigga. Either you're gonna be light enough that you can pass,
Say that.
or you're gonna be dark enough,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna deal with you.
Yeah.
So how does that relate to us in 2021? I am a darker skinned person. My sister Mo here is not. So our other people who are of the Anglo-Saxon nation, they may be able to relate more to Mo because she has a brighter skin tone, and they feel somewhere down in their heritage, maybe her grandparents or somebody was white, so they can communicate with her. But with me and my African American self, they can't deal with. It is, and it has been in articles, it has been proven, it is more prevalent for a darker skinned child to be suspended quicker than a lighter skinned child.
That's right.
It is more prevalent for a lighter skinned African American to be accepted in the workplace other than a darker skinned American in the workplace. Why? Why do we still have this type of situation going on? Because as brother has said, my baby brother has said, we still have a mentality of slavery. I can't get over you are being treated better because you're lighter than me. But now it's not, like I said, it's not just in our community, but it's widespread. It's in media. So if you look at the news, who you might have one dark-skinned person and 11, 12 light-skinned people. If you look at a movie, if they want to bring somebody that's ethnic, they're gonna bring a bright-skinned person that's maybe mixed. That's gonna have a light skin but curly hair. When you think about the token child in the classroom, my child is one of the token children in the classroom, and she's brighter than most. So yes, colorism is still something that we have an issue with. It's still something that we have to make sure that we understand that we got to get over this. We got to get over the passing. And I can understand in history where you have one of the movies that almost everybody in the Black community has ever seen, The Imitation of Life. That's one of the movies that shows how colorism is, whether the little girl does not want to be black because her mother's black and her mother's a maid, but then she comes to herself at the end of the movie and now she wants to behold her mother. No, then we also had it in the 90s when Spike Lee came out with School Days and he made the difference between the two. So colorism has always been an issue in the Black community, and if it is not addressed properly, we will continue to do the same things. God bless Camilla Wright. She is my soror, but I can assure you, if she was a little bit darker, if she had a little bit more melanin in her skin, it would have been a little bit different. And the reason why I say that, look at Cheryl Chisholm and look at her race when she was going. But I can talk on that all day. Exactly.
All right, so we're going to give the panelists a break from answering questions, and we're going to turn back. But we're now going to have one poem from one of our house favorites, and also a kingdoming artist, Tiffany, Truthfully Speaking. And then we're going to get back to the panelists after we give them a small break. Y'all give Truthfully Speaking.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Y'all hear me pretty good?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to share a poem entitled Black Hourglass. As I reflect on times past, many situations and confrontations of negativity slip slowly through a black hourglass. Once there was slavery and those hated me, but now it seems as if I'm destined to be hated by me, or should I say by those of my kind. Why is it that time has suddenly flipped into rewind? Entrapment of lives has now evolved into entrapment of the mind. Our lack of knowledge has left us incarcerated with no plan of escape. It's like we're locked down behind Master's gate, waiting to be freed, and now it is hundreds of years later, we still don't see a need to succeed. Black on black crimes and robberies, brothers beating sisters and broken families. What exactly is our destiny mapping out to be? Do we proceed or recede? Change will never come if we constantly wait for someone else. Look at the trap you set for yourself, not realizing how quickly the future covers the past. We sit back and laugh as Time slips slowly through a black hourglass.
That was Tiffany speaking. Thank you so much for that. All right, my panelists, y'all ready? All right, so this next question is for the entire panel. If you will limit your answer to 1 minute, and then we can proceed. One minute, Bridges.
That's kind of hard.
All right, we'll start with the ladies. This is a really big one. What is the biggest adversary to the Black community?
I got
Yeah, start with-
all of them.
Right. Adversity, right? It's ourselves. It's ourselves. You know, I live by certain goals, right? And you try to instill that. And so you look at it like, I can't. How many times the elders tell you, don't you ever use that word in the house? I can't, right?
Right.
Because if you're a winner, winners have positive mindsets. And so that's where we fall short when it comes to adversity in our community, believing that we can't do it instead of believing that we can. And so, how do we make it away from there? Changing one person at a time. We can't do it all at one time. It's gonna take a lot to do it. And so I just say that, how do we change that? Pastor spoke about black on black crimes. You know, we do a lot of things to ourselves. And so that's one thing that we gotta look at when it comes to our community is how can we get better? And then it starts within us. We change ourselves first. Just like when you go on an airplane, what they say, you make sure you secure before you help the person next to you. And so working on self is going to allow for us to continue to grow as that community, coming together, having different things, showing them different, my fiance, he comes from the neighborhood that we'll feed. Because that's what I love to do. I love to feed people. It doesn't matter if you have $1, if you have $2. Here you go. A matter of fact, we bless the whole family with turkey. My whole thing is this. I'm sorry. My whole thing is making sure that you definitely have to work on self first. And then each one teach one, right? Iron sharpens iron. So that's part of our adversity right now is that we quick to point the finger instead of just looking within. And so once you get within done, then we can start working on our community.
What's the biggest adversary to the Black community?
What I believe is the biggest adversary to the Black community is the lack of knowledge. Not so much book sense, because we have book sense and God knows we have street sense, but we don't have a sense of self.
Yeah.
So when we can't identify who we are within ourselves, then that's going to be what holds us back. Carter G. Woodson made a statement in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, is if you control a person's mind, I'm going to paraphrase, you don't have to tell him to go to the back door. If you already conditioned his mind, he's going to do it himself. So I believe us knowing who we are as a people, knowing who I am as a Black person, knowing who I am in God, knowing who I am, knowledge is power.
Yes, absolutely.
So there we go.
Okay, so I definitely, I think this kind of just piggybacks off something I've already said, but I do think our greatest adversary would be ourselves. And I say that because when we think about our community. Think about the hood. Think about everything that happens within the hood. You know, we talk about black on black crime, but we gotta understand that, as previously stated, it's easy to play victim when you actually are the victim, right? And we are victims of what? Not just black on black crime, but it's a system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, amen.
There's a system in place that keeps these people in poverty, right?
Absolutely.
And wherever there's an impoverished community, crime is going to increase.
Absolutely.
So what we need is, because we got people in the community trying to make it. We got people who moved out of the community, being critical of the community they came out of. So when we talk about how our biggest adversaries are ourselves, it's not just the people in the hood. It's the people who left the hood and just talking mess, about the hood and doing nothing to contribute to the betterment of the lives of those people. So our objective needs to be, how can we mobilize ourselves in a way that attacks the system? Right?
Yeah.
And you have to have people in place. That means politically, locally, and state elections are so important. But we just want to vote for the president. But we get people in place, we can help change the system that keeps our people impoverished, that sparks that black on black crime and all of the issues within our communities that stem from this system that was not created for the advancement of our people.
All right.
Y'all deep. So say amen. But I agree with all of you. For yours, sister, I think is not the enemy, but the enemy. And to even yours, Quintara, I think it's not necessarily, and this is just my opinion, I don't think that we just necessarily perish for lack of knowledge. I think we perish for the application of knowledge. Because here it is, the reality is, with fathers like yours and mine, mothers like yours and mine, we are and we have come some way, even though we haven't got there all the way, even as Paul said in Philippians, brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself to have arrived. But one thing I do, I press forward. I'm pressed. When I think about press, I'm just looking at my phone, and like I said, applying the knowledge, the application. Hey, Mom. I love y'all. But the application of knowledge. Right now, everyone in this room has a cell phone. Without you even knowing it or without you even buying it, when you got your cell phone, just like mine, I'm looking right now, there are about 20 applications that came with your phone.
Yep. Free installed.
Freely installed. Better preach that. There are applications that have freely been installed that you couldn't afford, but were given to you. Maybe they were given to you by the company that sponsored the phone, or in our case, they were given to us by our fathers, our mothers, our grandmothers, the Barack Obamas, the Harriet Tubman's grandmother, your great grandmother, who was the first. My grandmother was one of the first graduating class, one of the first Black graduating class at Parker High School. There were applications that were given to us, knowledgeable applications that were given to us, but we won't take time. I heard you say, bro, man of God, that voting. How many of us still have not and will not go vote? Preachers preach. Well, listen, we just ain't finna vote for the best of two evils. What? What? So you say it's better that I go back. I preached today on freedom to move forward, backward death trap, Pastor. To go backwards and not look at and not even take a check. I got this application on my phone. I'm just going to look at it. That's what we've been doing. Now, at one time, we didn't have a choice but to look.
That's right.
At one time, you didn't have a choice but to sit on the sideline. At one time, you didn't have a choice but to look at the bus pass by. At one time, you drove by the neighborhood and you ain't have no choice but to look and say, one day I wish I could. At one point that you were just window shopping because you couldn't afford to have the job to make the kind of money that you wanted to buy the clothes that you needed to buy, or afford to buy the books, or get the Encyclopedia Britannica. But my thing is, how many of us were growing up and saw the whole, mom and dad, I'm for real, how many of us besides me had the whole Encyclopedia Britannica in your house? And how many of us, unless on sale, God will open a door for you to get what you can't afford for what you need when you need it.
All right.
But I'm trying not to. But the reality is, we have to apply. All these things are great, but where do we go from here? If I'm choosing to stay in mediocrity, if I'm choosing to stay still.
Your choice.
Yeah.
Most houses now with your alarm system, as I'm wrapping up this sermon, net. I'm playing. Most of us have motion sensor lights in the house, inside and out. You know, now if you got it on the inside, you really know what it is. You have motion sensor on the inside of your house. Motion sensor lights, if you sit in that motion sensor light room for too long, not moving, what happens?
Yep.
Dare to make a move. Dare to apply yourself. And what happens? The whole world becomes illuminated.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Bless you.
2 minutes, Pastor David.
That one too?
That was what I'm doing.
That was one.
You know what I'm saying, preacher?
All right, so this actually 2 minutes, preacher. This one is directed to both of the preachers on the panel. Has the power of the black pulpit diminished? How and why?
Say again.
How
Has the power.
has the power of the black pulpit diminished? How and why?
I think it's a loaded question. Because there's so many ways in which you can look at it. And historically, we know the church has kind of led the movement, mobilized the community, right? I think in some ways, we've gotten away from that. And I do think you have to also consider, you know, this transition from that leading of the movement, from that. If y'all, I don't know if y'all saw the documentary last week on Israel Black Church, but they highlighted the transition from the Black church and this prophetic tradition. We're speaking truth to power. We're calling for justice, right? To the genesis or the beginnings of this prosperity movement.
It's good.
So now we have the prophetic versus prosperity. And maybe because I'm a preacher, I don't want to put all of the responsibility for that on the pulpit, or all the blame for that on the pulpit. I do think there's a level of accountability that needs to be held, of course. But I do also think when you live in a capitalistic society, when you live in a society that does not push forward community, but individualism, and then you have people who have always aspired in some way to be what that idea of it is to be American, you know, it's a slippery slope. And then when you talk about power, you talk about impact, right? And so when we have this prophetic tradition, but then we have the rise of this prosperity movement, we talk about impact. Which one has had the power, if you will?
Oh, wow.
That can be a question.
Yeah.
Because in some ways, after integration, civil rights movement, some pulpits fell away from that prophetic tradition
Yeah, they did, yeah.
because the struggle
Right.
is over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now that's where that transition takes place. And so, like I said, while there is some responsibility, the pulpit has to hold itself, preachers, we have to hold ourselves accountable.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
We do also, and I think one thing about that prophetic tradition, and I believe we're making our way back to that. I believe we're making our way back to that. One thing about the prophetic tradition or being a believer, period, is the willingness to go against the grain. Right?
Yeah.
So for me, the question is not has the pulpit lost its power, but how are we using that power?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right then.
So it's a mismanagement. You know, we have to be good stewards.
Yeah.
And understand that it's the prophetic that we're called to, not the whole prosperity, you know, all that. Okay, all right.
I'm gonna say amen. Let the church say amen. I'm gonna say, I agree, and I'm not gonna disagree with it, but I think in some ways, yes, we have lost the power, for two reasons, quickly. For number one, we don't understand that we're not called to the building, we're called to the people. And we got caught up in the prosperity. We got caught up in the looks. I'm not even gonna go back with the, I saw a little bit of the film too. I'm not even gonna talk about the transition, and I'm gonna talk about the transition in the last year, where now you were so used to having your church filled,
Yeah.
which pretty much guaranteed your bank account filled, because your tithers were on the front row. But now a pandemic happens and you panic. So amazing, sis, you know this. My ministry, we started outside. And I felt some type of way because I had preachers that laughed at me. Who said, when we started Bishop in 2019, well, y'all can't afford a building. Y'all can't afford a building. And they didn't know that I knew, because you never don't think, or I guess I don't know, we just have this mindset, but I don't care if they know who said it. But ain't it funny how God, even the playing field, even that playing field, when they closed the doors, not of the church, but of the building.
Absolutely.
Of the building, because the pulpit is wherever your feet lay, stand, and you proclaim the word of God.
Correct.
That's the pulpit. This is a pulpit right now. If I proclaim that God is real and Jesus is alive, this is my pulpit.
Amen.
Because I don't need, and I had to learn, we hear it, preachers, whether it's 1,000, don't be in small beginnings. Whether it's 1,000 or one, preach like the building is full.
Absolutely.
Preach like the building is full. The power has diminished because, and I'm you know what, Lord forgive me, the power has not been diminished. Everybody just don't got it. Everybody just don't got it. Because let me tell you something. If a power line was to fall right now, the uneducated mind says, especially in the mind of a child, oh, it's a down line, so we can't hurt it. It won't hurt us. It won't hurt us. If you dare to go and grab that wire, it's still enough to blow you back.
Absolutely.
If it's still connected, you only see the one end that's down. But if it's still connected, there's a source. There's a source that is connected to it. If the source is still pushing power, even though it's not currently going where it wants to go, there's still power there. So if the power is there, the power is there. What we have to be aware of is for those preachers and those that are self-proclaimed, because everybody, I mean, how you just started up preaching yesterday and your name is Apostle? How do you walk? How are you? And my thing is, we play around like that, bro. We play like, what up, Bishop? What up, Doc? Well, probably know I see it on your elder doctor. Excuse my French. Negro, you can't prophesy what you gonna eat in the morning. How you gonna tell me? No. But my thing is, and that's what happens, because my thing is, and also not just that, but when the power was there, you don't need pretty fly sermon topics are good, but baby, if you ain't got no substance, then you ain't gonna keep them. I don't need no fast food meal. We so quick to one. Well, listen, I can't be at your church all day. Why not? Baby, you sit at classic. We get the classic coming up. This new classic coming up.
Yeah.
We're gonna be there 7 hours. And most of us ain't gonna be sitting down. We're gonna be outside walking. We're gonna go buy the flyest outfit that we planning on keeping the tag in the back of, that we're gonna take back. Make sure you got the tape on the bottom of your shoes, because my thing is, after you walk around for 7 hours, the only time you actually gonna go in the game is just to see the band, but you really ain't studying the football team. You want, yay, we won. Girl, did you looking at it's so fast. Lord, help me, Jesus. I'm sorry. But power. If the power is there, the power is there. And what has to happen for those of us who are learning to use our power, just like any young superhero, you have to seek training. That's why I can remember, man. I can remember when I met you, Bishop. I can remember when I met Reverend Rogers. I can remember when I got to meet some oh man, I just wanted to sit and learn. Before I ran and tried to grab a mic, I just wanted to sit and learn.
Yeah.
So has the power diminished? It depends. But if the power is there, the power is still there. We just got to get trained, replenished, and renewed on how to use it right. How to use it, because it's needed right now.
Yeah.
It's needed right now. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
All right, so this is for Mo and Tara. Yeah, that's small. Why do we start Black history at slavery?
Come on.
Oh, no. It's slavery.
I came up with these questions. Thank y'all so much.
That's QE number 2.
Because it goes further than that, right?
Yeah.
We are definitely an implant that came way before they enslaved us. We did wonderful and amazing things. You still look at over there in Africa, how do they build those pyramids? You know, it's definitely further than the 1800s and the 1900s. So why do it's a condition. Psychological, right?
Yeah.
Is what we're taught. And so now we have to deprogram to reprogram.
Wow.
And so when it talks about the legacy, do I tell my son, hey, we picked cotton? No, we did more amazing things than that, and you're gonna do even more greater things.
Come on.
And so that's why, I make sure that I'm not biased. And I'm not only going for what I was taught, and then I always say, stick to the facts. Because somebody can tell you something, but if you don't read it for yourself, why would you believe it?
Right.
And so that's what I think is what's going on now. We were just taught that, and that's what it is. Every time Black History Month came around, We learned about Christopher Columbus. I didn't hear nothing about that this year. Do you know that?
Yes.
These schools are getting with the program. They're teaching them, they're deprogramming to reprogram. And so some of the parents that have these kids are going and they're saying, hey, well, this is what we learned. No, it's a whole nother ball game. And so that's what it is. We gotta reprogram ourselves.
Come on, this story.
Go ahead, come on.
Why do we start Black History at Slavery? First, because Black folk don't write the textbooks.
Yes,
So
that's true.
Get out of
when you have someone else writing your history, they can start or stop you wherever they want to.
Yes.
So I can't get mad when a little Julie that doesn't understand that Black history started before her granddaddy owned a plantation.
Wait.
But it actually started in Africa from kings and queens. And Africa is not the poorest. Africa is the richest. Why are we starting at slavery? Because if we understood that those who write history, if they actually write it that way, they're always started that way. If your oppressor is teaching you,
Wow.
they'll always keep you enslaved.
Yeah.
And because of having a start at slavery, you can agree with me or not, but because having a starting of at slavery, it has given a enslaved mentality
Yeah.
at the time of kindergarten. I can't look no further because all I see is my people picking cotton. So, and when I look at the janitors, they Black. So my grandmama's had to pick cotton. Or either, you know, I can't do this because I wasn't doing that, or I wasn't doing this. So, even in little bitty minds, they are conditioning themselves to think that it started with slavery. But no, baby, you have the blood of kings and queens in you.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go further than that, as far as starting with where we came from, our lineage goes all the way back to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because Jesus was a Black man.
Yes.
So starting our history right. And in order for us to start our history right, we have to be the one to write the history, to teach the history,
Yeah.
and to make sure it is instilled and is lived correctly.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now that segues to our next question. Are we doing our best in teaching this generation the truth about our history? And what conversations do we have with our younger generation about race? Ready, brother, if you would repeat the question for those who didn't. It's number 9.
All right. Are we doing our best in teaching this generation the truth about our history? What conversations do we have with our younger generations about race?
Good question.
In that, this kind of piggyback off the last question that was raised. I was reminded of something one of my professors, Dr. Welcher, once said, and slightly paraphrased. He said, you know, you can't trust a history that is told by the oppressor.
That's right.
Because it's going to be told in favor of the oppressor.
Yep, that's right.
It's going to make them look good. So as we understand that, I think we also have to understand something that's in the miseducation of Negro being trained versus being educated. In school, I'm trained. because the history that they give me, that's the reason why we start from slavery, because that's the history I was given in my training. But I have to position myself as a Black person in this country to be educated, right? So that's why my parents, our parents, have to have these conversations with us. But here's the thing about this generation. We have these things right here.
Yeah.
We have cell phones. Racism is now being filmed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
So on one hand, it's kind of, we're having these conversations because it's forcing us to have these conversations, because my 12, almost 13-year-old niece back there, she's able to see George Floyd be murdered
Yeah.
with a man's knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And so I think the way technology has advanced, the way we use these devices, thank God for them on one hand, because you have to think about how many lives have been lost and no camera was there to record,
Absolutely.
right? And so we're in a whole different realm or area where, you know, it's not just that we have to have these conversations, but we live in a time where, like I said, racism is being filmed. And so you see it for yourselves. See it for yourselves. The children are able to see it. They got a cell phone. They're gonna stumble across it.
Yeah.
And now I got my first phone when I was 15. Now kids, how old these days got cell phones?
7,
5, 3 years old.
3, 6, and 7.
You know. So yeah, that's it.
What question? 9. 2 minutes, okay. They don't count me reading the question, hold up. No, absolutely not. We're not teaching them. We're letting them find out things on their own. We live in a latchkey generation.
Yes, we do.
And as my brother before I said, it is hard to teach when you're being taught by the oppressor. And every story as it gets passed down, it gets a little bit diminished. And so you never know what's really going on. For some of us, we never even heard of Black history until we got in college, and that's depending on what college you went to. I was blessed enough to go to an HBCU, to where it was one of our studies, African American experience, to where I got an in-depth understanding of things that I already, thank God, were being taught from my father and my mother and from our family members before. But it is hard. And what happens is, even for some of those like myself who were taught about African American experience or our traditions when you got in college, it is hard to undermine or erase or empty out 18, 17, 19, 20 years of foolishness.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I didn't learn about African American experience until I was 18, but I was taught how to roll a blunt when I was 3.
Amen.
I never, if we can really go there, even in the Black community, I never was taught about the sanctity of marriage until I got to college and someone invited me to that church. But I learned about sex when I was also 3, 4, 5. Former educator, I can remember little girls coming to school and getting caught touching boys in a very grown-up way. And I can remember one, and I won't say what school this was, but young girl who was caught with 5 boys. And when caught, she said to the teacher, the female teacher who was there, "You just mad because I can do this better than you." and my eyes bugged. I didn't know what to say because if it had been my child, if it had been my child, I would have touched your soul. I would have touched your soul. But see, the flip part snatched it out. Oh, it'll come back. That snatched it out. I'm for real. You would have heard the words in heaven. It is finished. You would have heard the clouds would have departed. And you would have saw the hand of God. But what we have parents who have grown-up conversations in front of their children.
Yeah.
We have parents who, and I can remember I had several, when in my younger years, meeting a young lady, and I'm just kidding, I could just be transparent, and because I ain't been saved my whole life. 30 seconds. I could just remember though, to where I would go over there and we'll be in close, we come up watching the movie, and I'm like, hold up, is your baby up? Oh, they good? No, they ain't. Why they even here? You know what? Call you later. Call you later. Seeing the little boy come to school every week. Mr. Miller, what's up? I got a new dad. I got a new dad. I got a new dad. And I'm so confused until one of the teachers say, oh, mama got a new boyfriend. And when that little boy who also suffered from bipolar schizophrenia had an episode where he wasn't medicated and was swinging all over the classroom. And I had to restrain him and clean the classroom. And the mother came up to the school and in the office with the principal, they said, Mr. Miller, the mother's very mad. I said, well, I would do what I had to do again to protect the other students as well as the child from himself, because the boy was snapping, was swinging scissors. And so as the mother went inside the office with the principal, I turned and I looked at this, I'm guessing father, baby daddy, boyfriend, and I said, but just in my mind, just out of respect, sir, I'm so sorry about this situation. You know what I'm saying? I'll do what I have to do again. I'm sure he's a bright young man. I just started teaching that class. But listen, he's like, hold up, man, you ain't got to say all that. That little blankety blank ain't my son. You seen his mama? You wouldn't hit that. And the entire office didn't whisper, but this is who you got, mama, in front of your son. This is not who's raising your son, because my thing is you put away the needs of teaching your son the history, but teaching your daughter, listen, this is what I went through, so I don't want you to make the same mistake, because you won't be, so I'm gonna settle, I'm gonna do what I got to do. That's okay.
Yes, sir. All right, so the next question is for anybody who wants to. We're gonna skip through. So January 6th, what were your thoughts politically and otherwise? If you will repeat the question. Oh, yeah, she can.
Oh, okay, well, tell me what you want me to say.
It's being recorded. No comment.
All right, no comment. January 6th, what were your thoughts, politically and otherwise? Honestly, I think just from conversations I've had with friends and associates after January 6th, I think for most Black people, there were a wide range of emotions. On one hand, it was, let's be real, it was kind of comical, it was funny a little bit, just to see like, oh, okay. So now you have, it's like the tables have kind of turned.
Yeah.
It's like, but when we marching and protesting, we're marching because of social injustice.
Right.
You mad because you think you wrongfully lost an election.
Right.
We aren't the same.
Yeah.
So there's a wide range of emotions. On one hand, you're confused. On one hand, I'm somewhat amused. And one thing I guess I was kind of conflicted by, I'm not the best patriot, I'll say that. Okay, I'm not the most patriotic person. I think that stems from being a Black man in this country. But one thing I was conflicted about since then has been how it seems as though Donald Trump has gotten away with it.
Everything.
And it's just another reminder that to be a white man in this country means you can do whatever you want and you can get away with it.
Get away with it, absolutely.
And so while we had people on January 6th and even after January 6th saying this was the death of white supremacy, no, you resurrected it when you did not impeach
Absolutely.
Donald Trump for the second time. If that had have been Barack Obama, just think about that. If that had have been Barack Obama, but that's one thing. Even today, I saw him on the news. They were highlighting some speech he had at some event. And I'm like, why? Why? They want to call it insurrection. I call it domestic terrorism.
Right.
All day and night.
But yeah, it just further highlights the fact for me that as a white man in this country, you can literally get away with murder.
Yep.
No, I was trying to tell your sister to be quiet.
But I was gonna see if she gonna reach for the mic. Said she want and I
A
also,
mockery, that's all I can say.
a mockery. And I have to watch my words too because of things that I'm doing. I'm not, but I will say that it allowed us to see. You can see. If you couldn't see, if you were blinded, now you see that we got some fools of every color. We have craziness of every color. But yet, in my heart of hearts, I was also sad because I know, in fact, I had a cousin who went to miles with me. He works for the government, and he was actually in DC when it happened. And he said, cuz, he called me. We were praying. We're doing a Zoom service, and he said, cuz, I'm scared. I'm up here, I'm scared, because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. You know, I vote, but I don't go strong deep in politics unless I have to. He's very smart because he works for the government, so he's always reading, but he still just tries to keep himself, you know, at a distance. But January 6th really changed the playing field. But it did something different to me. It gave me motivation. It gave me the motivation to teach my sons. I have 3 black sons. It gave me the motivation to say, well, don't you let nothing stop you from getting what God has for you. Because whether the world wants to acknowledge it or not, and even though you may have been treated totally different, probably shot down like a dog in the street, you can move, you can make moves. And so, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you to sum that up. It was a mockery. But it's also, like I said, without going into it, if you couldn't see, I once was blind, but now I see. 2 minutes, that 2 minutes.
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. All right, so this is for Mo. What would it take to get the black population more involved politically?
I think that's 2 words. Okay.
Making them a believer. And so it's gonna take one of us to kind of step up and take those leadership roles, like you said, in politics. I know sometimes you go look at the ballot and you're just gonna vote Democrat, right? But do you even know who that Democrat is, right? And so,
Good.
one of the things that I've been looking into is to learning who these people are. So sometimes I go down to the city hall and go to the council meetings, and some of them, it gets bowed in there. And you know, you're like, wow, I didn't know you guys there's zero respect for each other, for the mayor. Yeah, and you would think, again, you treat others like you want to be treated. And so that's what I think it's gonna take, is for one of us or one of their homeboys. I went to Stillman, I'm an alumni from Stillman. Come on now. And so, one of the guys from my neighborhood is actually running for District 7.
That's right.
And so you got those notifications, going back to those applications on your phone that's already automatically downloaded for you. So I have an alert, come through his face in it, hey, is this guy even eligible? But again, it goes back to, hey, I made a mistake, but I didn't make it the second time. And so because he has the people, my brother, my cousin can say, hey, he went to jail, he did whatever he wanted. This guy's on a car lot, he feeds people, and he was doing that when he was in the street. So it doesn't take that from them, because he had to do what he had to do for his family. But it's still, they're trying to find a way to weed him out, because he is one of them, he comes from that community. And so they want to vote now. They say, oh, I can do it, I can make a change. So it's definitely gonna take for one of us that they know that they will be able to do it, to step up and put yourself in that leadership role and show them that it can be done, and educate on how I can bring you up too once I make it there.
Stacey Abrams.
Yeah!
She did enjoy it.
We'll talk about that after the overturn, right?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, bring right on back. Solidify.
Right, there you go.
All right, so this question is for Ms. Hannah, and then we're gonna take a break with one of our poets. What are the steps in ending racism, and where do we see racism most? Address the people who say, I don't see color.
I'm gonna answer the question in a little different way than you. So I'm gonna first say, how we address the people who say I don't see color. I can't cuss. Okay. I know. So what I say to my daughter when she hears, I don't see color, I love just the person inside. That is a bunch of myths. And the reason why that is because it's a cop-out.
Absolutely.
That is a blanket statement to say, I'm not for you, but I'm not against you either.
Right.
So I really don't see color, but I'm okay. That's the equivalent of me going somewhere with some of the Caucasian people, and I would call them brothers and sisters, but at this time I don't feel it. So me going somewhere and they say, yeah, I got this one black friend. What does that make? Exactly. You put a standard on me. Oh, your hair is so beautiful. How did you get it like that? Oh, I wish I was black, because you get to change your hair in so many ways. You are offending me.
Yeah.
Right. You are being racist. You're attacking my character. You're attacking my being, but you don't see color.
Yeah.
But your mama got white friends and black friends, and we go to the crocheting group together. That's a bunch of mess. Now, how can we end racism? Let me go back to, where do we see racism the most? We see racism the most.
Come on, Good Hammond.
We see racism the most.
Just gonna say it.
I'm trying to word it so I can
Keep it on.
keep my employment.
Right.
There, we were never incorporated in a system. So if you're never thought about in the infrastructure, if the foundation is never, if you are never a part of the foundation of the house, if you're never a part of the building of the house, if you're never a part of anything as far as the construction of this house, how in the world is the person that built the house going to accept you? And I hope that you can understand what I'm saying. There, in this place, it was never intended a space for me. You never regarded me, you never liked me. We are 2 to 3, we are 3 generations away from blatant racism. Now we're in another part of racism where now your grandchildren are going to school with my child and they're listening to their grandparents and they're repeating what their grandparents are saying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do we end something? We never started.
Absolutely.
Now one thing that I learned from my father is you don't start a fight, but you finish it.
It's good.
But in this particular fight, we fighting like hell, and our opponent is still winning.
Yeah.
And the reason is because the system was never intended for me at
Come
all.
on now.
So
Say it.
even if I try to use what you have given me as the blueprint, the loophole is still there.
Yeah.
Now, if we were to be diligent upon the whole, for our evangelical brothers and sisters who love everybody and, Christ is King and we're singing Kumbaya and all of this kind of things, if we be true to what we believe, then sure, I do believe that racism can end.
Yeah.
But I like you enough for you to come to my church, but I don't like you enough to stand up for what you are fighting for. I miss seeing your color because, you can come and sit and drink coffee and all this kind of stuff, but I really don't want your child to spend the night over my
Oh
house.
my God.
I don't see color, but I really ain't going on your side of town. And why are you on my side of town? And I'm going to be stopping you because you don't really belong here.
Yeah.
But I don't see color.
Right.
Oh, go
As Tara was talking, one thing when we think about racism, we understand that racism is about power.
Yeah.
You're talking about that building of the house, the foundation. We built the house.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I birthed this nation. We built the house. But the problem was, and is, we didn't have a seat at the table to discuss the blueprint of this house.
Yeah. Yeah. That right there.
And then on the other, I think Tara kind of spoke to this as well. When it comes to racism, we ain't the problem.
Right.
It's not us. It's our Caucasian, I said for you, brothers and sisters, right? And so there must be conversations had, right? And not just in this space. This is beautiful. Thank you, Nisa and Kara, for doing this. This is beautiful. But when we talk about racism, Black people know about racism because we experience it. But it's white people who we need in the room that are willing to have these conversations, that are open and honest about the privilege that they have.
Absolutely.
And if we're going to overcome racism, you're going to have to remove yourself from that privilege and become a part of our fight or the fight for liberation. Right? And that's not something that should be just a fight for Black people. That should be a fight for all people, right? That should not just be the fight or the pursuit of the Black church. That should be the pursuit of all churches. Yeah. So, yeah, we need conversations. We need to sit at the table, discuss the blueprint, not just build a house.
Absolutely. All right. So, give y'all cameras a hand real quick. We're gonna give them a break, and we're going to ask one of our poets, Jamil, to come up with one poem to give them a break. Y'all can take a restroom break and all that other stuff. And we're gonna come back with just a few more questions, and we are going to conclude and open the floor for any questions from the audience. If you will stand right here.
Good.
How they playing cards over?
How y'all doing tonight?
All right.
I'm gonna share a poem from my new book titled I Am Birmingham, the People's Poet. You can find that on Amazon. This is titled Legendary. Legendary is what I was born to be. To awaken souls with my artistry is a vital part of my destiny. The ability to paint vivid pictures was inherited, passed down from my mother to my sister and me. I am poetry, stanzas and mantras flowing through my veins, words that reflect the times, from Birmingham and beyond. Let the music play, dance to the rhythm of the travel drums. Our words unlock the door to our freedom, young, gifted, Black, and strong. We are the next generation of John Lewis and Nina Simone. We bear a new song. Our legacy will forever live on. America is the place we belong, the land our great-grandfathers tilled on. The New Jerusalem is our ancestral home. We are God manifested in human form, the royal and the righteous ones, the home of Yahshua the Son. Our soul has been burdened from deep wounds and battle scars, hated in a nation filled with deep roots of racism because we are melanated, hated by our people that claim to serve the God that created the melanated, when they too are created by the same God that created the melanated. That's what makes us all related. We are one human race, a virally infected population that's in need of saving.
Good job, Jamil. Y'all clapping up for him one more time. Now coming up one more time, truthfully speaking, and then we're gonna bring the cameras back.
All right.
All right. Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So this is entitled Place Me on My Throne. K-I-N-G, what is the meaning? P-I-M-P, that's what they're screaming. The true personification of M-E has become demeaning, only because the Q-U-E-E-N is no longer dreaming.
Yes.
The thought of a hood child being royalty seems to be taken foolishly. The actual family lineage shows the reality. But it's a shame that the truth will forever be hidden because there's a huge lack of belief in me. I can't see past the project walls that surround me, so I become the essence of the ghetto hood story that I was told defines me, a product of the slum. Becoming a non-factor when actually I am what factored and manufactured this reality. My life tells tales beyond the TV. My nose smells that you won't believe. My lungs inhale and exhale the breath of society as she speaks over me, never recognizing me, but forever despising me. Unaware of the intensity that lies inside of me, waiting to be released. I have to feed this savage beast that awaits patiently, ready to devour the stereotypes that consume me, to say the least. I'm rising beyond this. I will not become a victim of these streets. I'll become the epitome of royalty, beginning first with the knowledge of loyalty. The life that I live daily speaks of this allegiance, speaks of my allegiance to this country, an allegiance that was forced upon me, an allegiance that was never given to me, an allegiance that tore apart my family history, only to make it seem as if my father didn't want me. A life that started out wrong, but will end with me on my throne. Because I refuse to accept this as my future home. For justice and truth does my heart long, while my mind rehearses a song that bleeds verses of death, sex, and glorified wrong. The MEDIA is teaching me the direct way to provide work for the DEA. It ain't talking about the work that provides checks, but the work that breaks necks, for the work that work becomes suspect. Pay up or you will regret. Make a t-shirt, say a prayer, and then forget about the life that was taken. The hood blocks are shaking, waiting for deliverance from the hindrance that perpetuates the wilderness. I'm stepping forth with my staff in my hand like Moses. I am the representation of the chosen. Jude 1:4 speaks of those that are imposing. So I'm coming forth with the truth, but they're trying to keep me contained, refrain from touching the youth. Knowledge is power. Blessed is he that makes it through. I can't stop. I won't be stopped. The evolution of the revolution begins with you. Put on your crowns, kings and queens. Yes. Take your place as inherited royalty. Be more than the best that you can be. Live in your moment of excellency. Your throne is waiting. Your kingdom has been prepared. Take the locks off your mind and become aware that this society does not love you. It's killing you without a care. Abortion clinics in the hood, ever wonder why they're there. Empty church buildings on every corner, full liquor stores everywhere. Neighborhoods stricken with poverty, but they take all the help overseas. Just dial 1-800-LETS-FEED. While the ones at our home are in need. We will never be taken seriously until we get up off our knees. Now don't get me wrong, please, it's fine to pray and bow your heads, but always remember that faith without works is dead. So even if the movement starts with me, I will take a vow to rid the hood of ignorance and illiteracy and fill it with hope, love, knowledge, respect, and dignity. So when I'm finished, they will have no choice but to place me on my throne where I am supposed to be. The question is, are you coming with me?
Yes,
Y'all enjoying yourselves? So we're about to bring the panelists back for the last couple of questions of the forum, and then we'll open it up because some of them have to leave. We understand that. All right, so this next question is for Pastor Daniel. Have you ever run into a Black Trump supporter in public conversation?
Oh my God.
Great job.
Unfortunately, I have not. 'Cause I kind of wish I had, you know. But no, I have not run into a Black Trump supporter. I say unfortunately, but thankfully as well. But I know that they are out there, and you know, I just pray for them. You know. But I have had conversations with, I guess we would call evangelical white pastor who was clearly in support of Donald Trump. He wasn't overbearing with it, you know. He's one of those that tried to dress up his decision through his religious affiliation, with his ideas about abortion and those kinds of things. So I did speak with him about that, you know, telling him, you mean to tell me that a guy who has children in cages on the border is concerned about an unborn child. You mean to tell me somebody who is not looking to provide adequate health care for that child when the mother births that child is concerned about the unborn child?
Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I haven't had a conversation or encounter with Black Trump supporters, but in my limited interaction with Trump supporters, you know, I'm gonna say what I got to say.
All right, so the last couple of questions are for the entire panel. Please remain within your 2-minute mark. And we will start with the ladies. What are the components of a powerful Black nation? And what do you enjoy the most about being Black?
When it comes to the components of a powerful Black, I told you to take it too long. When it comes to the components of a powerful Black nation, I see a people that see themselves through their own lens, you know, who are walking in the, you know, truth of who they are, who have found themselves. I think the identity piece has been spoken about since we've been here. So that identity, being secure in who you are and not trying to secure your identity through the lens of somebody else. So that's powerful. And in that, when we talk about a Black nation, I like to talk about this thing, especially when it comes to black kids. We were all in here at some point, we were Black kids, and I'm sure your parents in some way impressed upon you that as you try to navigate life in light of being Black and being around white people, that you have to be 10 times better than they are, right? In order to achieve. Well, that might be true, but that puts in our head the idea of competition. But when I think of a powerful Black nation, not only are we seeing ourselves through our own lens, we're creating our own narrative, but rather than competing, we are creating, which goes back to the segregation integration issue. So people who are secure in who they are people who are creating their own opportunity, their own way. Start your own law firm.
Absolutely.
Your own medical practice.
Yeah.
You know, open your own business, a shop, a boutique, and stop looking for a seat at their table. Build your own table.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and to answer the second question, what do I like most about being Black? I love that as Black people, we are a people of rhythm.
We stay on beat.
Yeah, we stay on beat. We are a people of rhythm, you know. You know, when the slaves, they sang songs, you know, as they were picking cotton, or our ancestors, when they were marching, they sang songs, because we are people of rhythm. There's a cadence to everything that we do.
Yeah.
You know, we're a people of rhythm, and as much as people have tried to take that away from us, we keep our cadence going, you know. We're people of rhythm. That's inside of us. If you go to church, you hear the preacher preach, there's a cadence. You know, poets, there's a cadence. You know, because we're a people of rhythm. There's like music just inside of us. And I think that's beautiful. I think that speaks to our creativity and the core of who we are as a people. You know, we have our own beat, our own movement. You know, we even walk. You know, I know a lot of people like talking about the way Barack Obama walked. You know, you know, and, okay, that's for y'all. But Michelle Obama walked too. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm good.
As far as what components make a powerful Black nation, I believe, and I am very firm in my belief, that what makes a powerful Black nation is us. We technically are. We just have to understand who we are.
Right.
Like, we are already powerful, we just don't understand our power.
Yeah.
Right.
If we really understood who we really are and what we do and how we do it, like he said, there's something about, and it leads to the next question, is something about being black. Everybody wanna be black, but they can't be black.
Yeah.
You wanna be me, but you can't be me. I enjoy the whole, for me, for Quintara, I believe that with our relentless will, with how our grandparents, how our forefathers, how they literally made a way. They were not given, it was not grace to them, but they made it happen. There's something about a black person that if you don't give it to me, I'm gonna get it some kind of way. Now it is gonna be hook or crook, but I'm gonna get it some kind of way. Now I absolutely love the will that a black person has. Like I said, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but there's something that we got some go-getting about it. Everybody's not waiting on a handout. Everybody's not waiting on the government to give us something. Everybody's not. No. It's some of us, like he said, that it's not competition, but we are literally building our own. The reconstruction, the real reconstruction of the black nation, I believe is now happening.
Yeah.
Now, what I enjoy most about being black, I enjoy the versatility that I have, and I am unashamed of how I can go from one way to the other. I would be a sad somebody if I had to wake up every day and I had to wear my hair the same way. I can go outside. I'm a peel. I can't do this. I can't do that. I might have skin cancer if I stay out in the sun. I would be a one sad somebody if my only, if I couldn't be me. But there's something about being black that I absolutely love. I love how God created us, how he took his time and formed my lips to be big, and you love them so much that you go pay a plastic surgery. I love the way that I am shaped, because the way that I'm shaped now, you want to be shaped like me, so you go to another surgeon to do that. I love everything about me because you want to be me. I love being black. I love the history of black, and I love what our future holds, because everything ain't bad. We are going somewhere, and I am appreciative of where we're going.
Absolutely.
I respect that, right? Affirmation, Dennis, can you tell us what our affirmation is? Come on up, son, please. And this is going to be the components of building a black nation and why I love to be black.
I am beautiful. I am capable. I am worthy. I am fierce. I'm a manager. I believe legacy. I love my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
Hey, man. Hey, great job, little kid.
Yeah.
Great job. And that right there, I would have to say, just going into it, just even with that first question, what are the components of a powerful black nation? Teaching. Teaching what he just did even the courage he had to come up to do it. Number one, that took you applying everything that you went through, good, bad, and ugly, as a Black mother, coming from upstate down to the South, totally different. But the stability, or should I say, the strength that was passed down to you, it's there. It's there. So the biggest component, I would say, is just teaching them and teaching them right. Yes, as we were talking about earlier, that is a big thing that, that we are limited to what's being taught because the teachers are wrong, but not if we as parents are teaching ourselves. One thing about it, right now, my 6-year-old is in bed, but just like my dad did my brothers and I, even on days you came home and said, I don't got no homework. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I'm gonna teach you the word of God, and I'm going to teach you we're gonna get these words right. We're gonna get these spelling words right, and I'm gonna teach you how to use them. Give me a sentence and how this is said. It's not good enough for me to let you just watch certain things, which we also need to be cautious of not allowing your kids to watch everything. You be the teacher. Stop letting Facebook, Instagram, Jay-Z, stop letting everybody teach your child everything that you're gonna have to correct later. Because you don't have time to be going up to the school wondering, well, listen, man, your child, I don't know what they get that from. Yes, you do. They got it from you. They got it from you, or they got it from the babysitter that you never really interviewed to come over to the house. You just knew that was somebody's daughter next door, who she just sit around next door, and then she bring her boyfriend over there like, okay, let me stop.
Why do you love being Black?
Okay. But why do I love being Black? It's because who I am. Black is who I am. And my thing is to embrace my identity, is to embrace my Blackness. And my thing is, America would not be America without Black people.
Absolutely.
Just as a piano could not be anything without the Black keys. And so though we have been set aside, put aside, pushed aside, oppressed, depressed, suppressed, we are still valuable. But you are only as valuable as you allow yourself to be. I love being Black because I have Black parents and a Black history that teaches me that we can fall down, but you can get back up again, and you have to. You don't have it. I don't have a choice. We don't have a choice, because to stay down means to give the enemy, whether it be Satan or a clansman, supreme opportunity to shoot the target on the back of my son and your daughter. And I refuse to let anything that came. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will study and learn. As for me and my house, we will pray, and we will learn how to watch others who pray on us. But I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you. I just thank God for He didn't make no mistake in the day. Amen.
Amen.
That concludes our question and answer, our questions of our panelists. Y'all give our panelists a hand. On behalf of the Majesty Lounge, we present you with these gifts in your Majesty bag.
All right.
We thank y'all so much for coming for our first State of Black America. This has been wonderful. We're going to have a poet to close us out, but before, because some of them have to leave, but if you have any questions or comments from the audience?
I've got one. What are we supposed to do about people like Chapel?
People with them.
My daughter just asked a question about what do we have to do about people. It's a young lady in her class who is entitled. And her father is CFO of Pepsi, and she has a humongous house in Inverness. What you do is what I tell you to do every day. You show them that you have the smarts. You're not in competition with anybody. God made you the way He made you.
That's right, that's right.
You don't have to sing, skip, or dance for them to be your friend.
Absolutely.
Amen.
The only thing you have to do for people like her is ignore her. That is something that we have to teach our children, because when we have children that go to mixed schools, sometimes, and my daughter goes to a predominantly white school, sometimes they feel like they have to be the court's gesture in order for them to be, accepted. Either they have to have a basketball or a football or something for them to be accepted. No, beloved, your mind is all you need.
That's right.
And one thing that my father taught me and my sister and instilled in us, if they don't call you by the name that you were given, they're not talking to you.
Right.
All right.
And what I want you to know is, Madeline, and in your baby too, you come from a rich history.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what they say, regardless of what they do, you come from kings and queens, and you have a impeccable, incredible life. It's nothing wrong with being black.
That's right.
Nothing.
You're not a charity case. You're not something, somebody that just needs some help. You're young, you're gifted, and you're black.
Amen.
And you're beautiful too, Madeline.
Madeline, let me say this to you too. No competition. I'm gonna echo that. Entitlement doesn't mean anything. And my thing is, sometimes all you got to do, baby, is just be you and just watch. Just be you. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna go biblical real quick. David was of the house of Judah, but Judah was not of the kingly. Correct me if I'm wrong, man of God. It was supposed to be the house of Benjamin, where all the kings lie. Benjamin fell out of bounds. Am I right? So they had to send Judah first. In other words, David didn't look the part. He didn't have the part. He didn't come from the richest area. Matter of fact, we all know David was, and you 12, baby, David was anointed when he was just a teenager, not an older, a young teenager. I think 14 or 14 years old. Baby, you 2 years, you better receive this. You come from a rich heritage, and baby, all you got to do is just walk in it. You ain't got time to worry about what she does or what she says. Sometimes some people just like to hear themselves talk, and they're gonna have their little entourage who feel that they're somebody because she feels that she's somebody. But baby, you just be you. You got an entourage too. And see, your entourage is filled with kings and queens and pastors and presidents and senators. You know what I'm saying? Right now, what she can't say, what she cannot say is that she looks like anybody in the White House. But you can. You can wear your pearls in church tomorrow if you want to. But I'm sure your mama got a couple of them. But you just walk in the heritage of who you are. Don't change for nobody. Do you worry about him? Nope. Did David worry about Saul? Nope. Did Job worry about his enemies? Nope. Just pray for her, strengthen the Lord, because if she only knew who you were, let me tell you something, if she knew who you were, if she knew about the anointing and appointment, if she knew about the anointing and the appointment on your life, baby.
And drop them.
You don't have any other competitions you have?
Yeah, so given so that you all know a lot about Black history, what is there something that you've learned, like, that you can give us one thing that you can learn from, or that you have learned from throughout the entire Black history? Just one.
Let me make sure I have your question. What have we learned from learning Black history? What's one thing that I've learned from Black history that just stood out, that
To do the most.
that I draw off of the most, or?
I love being the first at things.
Yes.
That makes you so excited to say, hey, I was the first person to do this. I was the first person to do that. And so when we go back and to look at Black history, we were the first to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, if we wanted to go up, you know, some people got tired of using that elevator. And so we say, hey, let's just make it automatic. That was us.
Yeah.
Stop, go, yield. That was us. You know, so that's what I like, being the first at things. And so I'm able to sit and instill in him, hey, do you know mommy was the first valedictorian of this class in New York?
Come on, girl.
Did you know that your grandmother integrated the University of Alabama with Arthur and Lucy? So it's a lot of things that we the first of, and we want to continue to be the first at. And so that's what I'm doing.
What I pull from, if anybody knows me, the rights era is absolutely one of my favorite eras. And to see what I get strength from is how our people mobilize themselves to get to one centralized goal, and it was done. It was not, be it the Nation of Islam, be it the SALC, be it the Black Panther Party, everybody had the agenda of advancing their people. And they did it, in the words of Malcolm X, by any means necessary. And I am so encouraged daily about how many ways our people made sure that we were taken care of and how we advanced. That's what that's me. That's me.
Okay. I'm supposed to use the mic this time?
No, you can.
Oh, okay. I guess for me, it's about, you know, the lessons that we gain from history. We watch, we learn how our ancestors moved, how they mobilized, strategized. But what I want to take away from those historical moments is, okay, how can I take what they did and how they advanced and how they made progress? How can I take that? What can I learn from that? How can I expand that? How can I make that relevant to what we're trying to pursue today? We've kind of already talked about it. And that for me is the idea of creating. We talk about the integration, segregation argument to begin with. There was creating in them. We segregated, we created. We had our own Montgomery bus boycott. You know, you got people, like now you got taxis, you know, Black folks doing what Black folks always do, and that's finding a way. Right? Black church, creating, you know, pushed out of these spaces, we created our own space. And it has been so beautiful. And so that for me is one lesson, how Black people have always been able to create, even when they had to create in secrecy. They created spaces for themselves. And somewhere along the way, we kind of don't want to do that because we love everybody. We black folk, we want everybody to come to kick back, you know, to cook out, you know. We give everybody a ticket to the cookout in a minute, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, we created these spaces for ourselves. And I just take that lesson, you know, and try to apply it. Create, you know, don't be afraid, create. Against all the odds, they created. And then one other lesson, maybe because I work in the church, but I think about all that our forefathers, ancestors had to go through and how it was the church that not only kind of led the movement, but it was what sustained them, what gave them that release, right? That they needed in order to continue this fight where they were being hosed down in streets and dogs were sitting on them. And so an even greater question for this generation is, how is it that at times we feel we're so beyond the institution, the songs, and other things that helped grandma, great-grandma, granddaddy, that helped them make it through a level of oppression that we'll never face.
Oh, my God. Thank you.
No. I'm in the Holy Ghost, that's what it is. Yeah, so my question is, how is it that, you know, this generation, we got a lot of technology, we go to school, we get educated and all of that, and somehow we feel like we're beyond this institution that has been ours, but then has also helped sustain people through, and somehow we believe we're beyond that, but it was good enough, it was strong enough to carry our ancestors through Jim Crow, slavery, all of that. And so I hold on to that value as well. So if it was good enough to help them make it through what they faced, surely with all the education and all of that, we can take that and we can expound on, make it even better, or even greater experience for our people.
That's what's up. Well, man, it's been a lot said tonight. It's powerful. But if I had to give something, don't stop moving. Just an encouragement to our people. Don't stop moving. Don't stop learning. There's a big difference between potential energy and kinetic energy. There are so many who have potential, but kinetic energy is potential energy applied. Simply put, it's potential energy applied. And so we have to, as we do see that we have ways to go, that we have to keep moving, we have to keep teaching, we have to keep, no matter the place that you're in. No, we did not ask to come here. Our ancestors did. No, you did not ask to even be born. But no matter what state you're in, one of the most beautiful things that we've been able to do is make it yours. Make it yours. Don't stop moving. Don't stop learning. Don't stop teaching. And let the spirit of who you are, the God in you, your heritage, illuminate the room. You set the atmosphere. You be not just, it just don't feel right here. Let me change the energy because I know who I am as a Black man. You know who you are as a Black woman. Change the atmosphere. Because my thing, let's be real in saying that there's not all of us who are there where they need to be, but my thing is you have the power to change your system. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Are you your sister's keeper? Yes, you are. And my thing is, I will not complain about what's going on if I'm not doing anything. I would not be potential. in waiting. Mm-mm. That's why even just knowing who you are, knowing your purpose makes a difference, and why you got to get up and move. When the Bible says wait on the Lord, it don't mean just sit there. It means continue to do what God has already instructed you to do until He provides the next way, the next path. Knowing who you are, speak life into yourself. Speak it by faith, speak it by understanding, but also learn and teach, and so you don't say anything in vain. That's why the Bible doesn't say a man defined a woman. He said a man defined a wife. A wife is not just a woman, it's a woman with a function. It's a function. Don't stop learning, don't stop moving. Amen.
All right, thank you so much for your questions. The panelists can step down into the audience as we close out with our last poet. Y'all give them a hand one more time. And also network with them if they have any businesses or anything like that. So if Sunday will come and close us out, and that will conclude.
Come on, Sunday, take us on.
State of Black America.
There's so many things, so many good things, so many valuable things that have been said up here. But I don't want to walk away with regret, so I want to talk to all of us, particularly the younger generation. Madeline, that's my girl. She dances with my daughter. One thing that she does with y'all is when y'all take pictures and when the camera's going, she always makes y'all hold y'all head up, right? You always have a certain posture where you hold your head up, right? Because even we're gonna take it to the Bible. The Lord said, "I look toward the hills from whence come my help. My help comes from the Lord." Right? He said, "He make my feet like hinds feet, put me on the high places." Right? Because the high place, when you're looking up, that's where your hope is. Right? Like USSR back in the 80s, I remember learning why they made all of the buildings the same height. And what they did, when they made the buildings the same height, they discouraged people from looking up. And so when they look down, they lose their hope. So you got to keep your head up, because see, social engineering has got us looking at these. And so now if our head is down, where's our hope? So you got to keep your head up. Our ancestors kept their heads up because they were looking beyond their situation. Looking up was looking ahead for them. Seeing the big picture, looking up. Remember that. Because your life is your dance.
Absolutely.
And you're giving young girls hope as you look up.
Yeah.
The young man will give people around him hope as he looks up as his mom plant seeds in him. So that's one thing I just want to make sure that was said.
That's right.
Because that's something that we can all learn from. A lot of us stay occupied in here, and while we're looking down, we're not looking up, and then we get so caught off in what we see when we should walk by our faith and not our sight, that we lose hope.
That's right.
And so I'm done with that. I'm gonna end with transparency. I don't have a lot about Black history, but my uncle, God rest his soul, always told me to be open and honest, and you know, as long as I'm being open and honest and transparent, then that is Black history if I'm Black.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's what it is. Help me walk through it. Been kind of antsy. Homage. Father God, your son, he's a precious gem, he's a royal diadem, he's a spiritual mineral vitamin, the Spider-Man who cheat him or maybe lie to him. I'm not concerned with the enemy, I'm more concerned with the enemy. Looking for the Holy Spirit to come through, teaching and intervene. I definitely not be on the left nor life on the right, but currently I'm in between. Seeing through the mask and the arrogance, second guessing your sovereign, taking penitentiary chances, here I come on, fully exposed. Even with these layers on clothes, these players, these foes, these troubles, these woes, these fears. Acting like I'm full of courage when in reality I'm hiding from my chiding, my shortcoming, and my fears. Oh yeah, I may act as if I'm unaffected, but I'm actually beaten battered more from these bruises, these hates, and these smears. Y'all feel me? I'm doing a little more than shaking my head as I stay awake in my bed. The doctor had me taking these meds. I'm paranoid as I scroll through social media, hoping that I don't have to shake these meds. You see, I'm so unimportant to the average Joe that they may not listen unless the average really want to know what I've learned from life twists and life turns. Question is, how did this transparency become focused around me? I didn't find you, Lord, you found me. You amaze, you astound me, and other descriptions that couldn't encompass even the scriptures show us types and shadows, snapshots of the overall picture. Now, I can't convince myself that I'm flawless when I'm lawless, and even when I attempt to keep your commandments at my best, I'm a filthy rag. So with that said, in essence, Lord, I really need you, regardless.
Yeah.
See, you're the source of my ending even before I started, when I put sin on certain levels and in certain compartments. Stirring the emotions of the listeners to provoke them to say, Sunday, man, he's an artist now. Does it build us or destroy us when I address the Skype of pain? Is it equivalent to smoking cigarettes and disregarding its effects, though it's clearly seen through the cellophane? Am I selling you out, selling you short? Am I perpetuating the peculiar, the strange, or am I just content knowing that I can drop your name? Saying that you're my king and I'm your kid. Now check it, if I can't answer any of these rhetorical questions I just asked, I take solace in his omniscience, because that means not only could he answer them right now, but even when my thoughts were from afar off, he already did. It's transparency.
All right, that will conclude our first annual State of Black America. Thank everybody that came. Thank all the panelists, all the artists that showed up. This was a conception of my brain for the longest, and I thank so much everybody for coming and participating. We're going to do this every year.
All right.
Cool.
Every year. So we prepared the panelists for 2022. We're gonna be on the bigger stage.
Yes, yeah.
This is a much needed conversation.
Yeah.
And we're gonna try to get some more folks in here for this. So thank you so much. This ain't no church service, so we got to close in prayer. So y'all have a good night. Be safe.
All right.